I was a world champion, but guess what? The next year I wasn't. I have world records, but somebody hopefully will break them one day, because we're always raising the bar. We can't keep holding the identities of these titles. Right. So the yo-yo of my life, because it's, again, I'm not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination, is to keep making sure that the identity of Kate Strong is attached to emotion, not those titles or the haves.
Well, hello out there, everyone. We are so pumped to welcome you to the Switch for Good podcast. I am Olympic silver medalist and Switch for Good nonprofit founder, Dotsie Bausch.
And I am Alexandra Paul, a certified health coach and a longtime actress.
Years ago, my life was radically transformed when I made the switch for good away from eating animals and animal-based products. My athletic performance was greatly enhanced, much to my surprise actually, by the power of plant-based eating.
Dropping all animal products from my life has finally aligned my values with my diet, and now I feel more balanced and more at peace with food and with my body.
Alexandra and I started this podcast with you in mind. We are here to take you on a transformative journey to learn the power of eating plants and help you redevelop a healthy relationship with food and a more whole relationship with yourself.
Each week, we bring you doctors, dietitians, psychologists, prominent athletes, and other interesting guests who have deep, rich information and inspiration to share. We welcome you every week. Join us on the journey to switch for good. This is the future.
Hi, friends. Dotsie here to talk to you about versatility, balance, and of course, cookies. Now, you've heard me rant and rave about Maxine's Heavenly Cookies before, and for good reason. I've told you about my love for the soft cookies and then my love affair with the newer crispy ones that have come out. Well, after eating my way through various boxes of both, I finally landed somewhere in the middle and appreciate the versatility that Maxine's Heavenly Cookies offer. When I'm wanting kind of a sweet treat to pair with, say, some vanilla coconut ice cream, I always reach for the crispy ones. But when I'm on my bike or a hard hike and I need a power boost, I go for the softies. Cookies like these that are made with all natural coconut sugar can help us all keep the balance that we're looking for in our diets by offering up that treat a day to keep the cravings away. So experience the versatility yourself by heading to maxinesheavenly.com and enter the code SWITCH, SWITCH, for 25% off your entire order. And then be sure to let us know, are you a soft, crispy, or both kind of person? Well, we have an incredible guest today. Her name is Kate Strong. Yes, Kate Strong. She is a powerful athlete, woman, vegan, and so much more you're going to learn. Kate has been smashing stereotypes around athletes for years after she began training for a professional career in her mid-30s. Kate has secured three Guinness World Records in a grueling challenge on a static bike. And as if that's not enough, she's also a World Triathlon Champion personal coach, and she did a TEDx talk titled, "Do What You Want and Get Away With It," which I highly recommend. Kate dove headfirst into self-transformation and changed her life years ago, and she just hasn't stopped growing and striving to change the world as well ever since. Undertaking challenges like summiting Mont Blanc is just kind of a normal part of Kate's life, it seems. I was very honored to be a guest on Kate's podcast called The Strong Voice, and I found her to be so empowering in both her personal story and also energetically. It's as if she just burst through the computer screen. So let's talk to Kate about her upcoming Limitless Challenge, the wisdom that she has gained over the years, and also, of course, her incredible athletic career. Welcome to the podcast, Kate.
Thank you so much. And can I meet this person? She sounds amazing.
Oh, yeah, she is. Oh, goodness. I know. Sometimes it's like, wait, is that me? Yeah. It is. It is. And there's so much more to you than just a 2-paragraph intro. So, One aspect, as of many that I didn't mention in the intro, is that you emerged from a toxic relationship when you first put on a pair of trainers, as we know over here in the States, tennis shoes, running shoes, in your mid-30s. So many folks, I think, can relate to that kind of, press the restart button time of their lives. So I want you to take us back there. What was the impetus for the action you took out of this toxicity into your new shoes, so to speak?
Yeah, it's strange because when I look back in those moments, I don't actually associate to the person there, even though it was obviously me, because I think I've just evolved so much through it. But for 9 years, I'd been with this guy, and without unbeknown to me, it was getting more and more controlling, more and more toxic. And I hadn't seen the signs earlier on. So by the end of it, he was tracking my phone. I couldn't spend any money. I couldn't leave the house. I struggled to say no to him in many situations. So I'll just leave that up to your imagination. But it was quite a sad way I was living, and I sort of lost myself. So when he actually broke up with me 6 days before my wedding, I didn't have any faith in myself to be able to continue. And I still had to run our business because I didn't want to negate all the debt that he'd left me with as well. So I was working every single day to try and pay off our debt, but also find myself. And it happened, that moment when I realized was about 4 months later. It was on my birthday party, and it was yet another night out with some friends, yet another bottle of wine. And I was there complaining yet again about how horrible he was and how terrible my life was, how much time I didn't have. I was working 7 days a week at the time as well. And it was like at the bottom of my second glass of wine. And I went, hang on, how much longer am I going to drink this bitterness? Because he left me. Yeah, I'm still sitting here complaining and whinging, and every night's looking the same. I need to do something different, and it's only up to me. And so that's when I decided to take up triathlon. It was a dream I had when I met him, but yet he talked me out of it. Oh, Kate, you're good enough. You don't need to train. So I decided, right, I need to do something for me, and that is the running and the swimming and the cycling, and just see how far I can go.
Gosh, were you already good at any of the three of them?
I think,
or is this all just like brand new?
I did swim, cycle, and run when I was younger, but I'd never sort of put them together. I had done a half Ironman just as I met him, and realised the enormity of what I wanted to do, because ultimately it was Ironman that was my dream. But it'd been 9 years I hadn't really run. I'd lived in the dream that I was fit and healthy and fit and active and running, but I hadn't actually done the work to honour the words I was saying. So I couldn't run a mile. Like within a few hundred feet of the first run, I was almost vomiting from the pain in my throat, and I could still see my house. So to build up from there to get to marathon status and Ironman status was going to be enormous, but I knew I needed that big challenge to fill the void that I felt that he'd left me in.
Yeah. Somewhere in our research, we learned that on this, as you were running, you got lost in a forest in Guatemala, and you met another woman who inspired you when she told you about her plans to train for an Ironman. Tell us that story. What happened inside you that day?
Yeah, that was back in 2002. So, my partner dumped me in 2012. So 10 years prior. Oh. It's amazing how seeds of inspiration get dropped in your thoughts. But I just graduated. The world was my oyster. I was, as you said, I was traveling Latin America, and it was an American girl called Katie. And we went camping. We were going to hike this volcano. We got hideously lost, slept under a tree. We had to take our socks off our feet and put them on our hands because we were so cold, and we were shivering, sort of hugging under the tree all night, trying to stay awake so we wouldn't die of frostbite. And in the morning, seeing the sunrise on top of this mountain, which we eventually climbed, she then said, I want to be an Ironman. And I had no idea what that meant. I thought it was an operation that turned you into like half a robot. And when she explains what it was, I thought she was absolutely insane. 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, then a marathon. But I needed that insanity. We all need a little bit of crazy in us, don't we, to get outside our comfort zone. And that dream of Ironman always stayed with me. And that's sort of what the crazy I needed 10 years later was to pull me out of my self-proclaimed misery was to give me that bit of hope to keep moving forward.
I think there's a wonderful lesson for all of us here, is that when you were, after your partner had left you, you didn't try and reconstruct your whole life. You took one thing and concentrated on that. That's what I'm hearing, at least. And then naturally, other parts of your life improved. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I couldn't reclaim the 9 years I thought I'd lost. There's no point wishing I was 25 again and meeting myself at that age. Like, I was 34. I had to deal with a 34-year-old woman and 34-year-old dreams and obligations. So yeah, I just focused on what I was today. And as you said, just picked one thing and doubled down on it.
Mm-hmm. Where did veganism come into your athletic endeavors?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it was around the same time, because for me, that breakup, we were supposed to be married on a cliff edge. The irony is not lost on me. So, I went to visit the cliff edge again, and standing at that moment, it was like a consciousness, an awakening, if you want, of myself, to realize that I am responsible for where I ended up. I'm responsible to what happened to me as much as what I can do with what I've got in my life. And I started to join all the pieces together. And that involved looking at what I was eating and the impact of what it was having on me, but also what I was doing to the world. And I think when we go through trauma, I don't wish this on anyone, but when we go through trauma, we realize that we don't want anyone else or any other sentient being to go through that similar experience. And realizing that my food choices could create that in the world, and not only impact other sentient beings in the pain, but it was hurting my own performance and hurting my own health as well. It just made complete sense for me to eradicate eating anything that was meat or dairy or anything from an animal. And so it was sort of all in the same sort of mesh, give back my life and make sure other people's lives were also positively left impacted. So yeah, it happened around the same time.
I remember we talked about this just a little bit when you and I had our conversation a while back. It paid you back that your heart swelled and you started to feel this connection between you and other sentient beings. And you've credited veganism for some of your success, because you turned plant-based. One of the reasons was to try and work on your lungs. They were holding you back when you were running. And I know because you mentioned it, that ditching dairy was really pivotal for that. What were first of all, how did you kind of pinpoint what was going on and what was going on with dairy? And then what were the remarkable aspects that unfolded when you got rid of it?
Yeah, I think, dairy was the first thing for me that I started to test on. And with all honesty, my first motivation was my own health. I still was a little blinkered when I was starting to run in the impact in my food for other sentient beings. And I owned a guest house at the time, so I was getting quite a lot of amazing people walk through the doors from many walks of lives. And I think if we stop and just listen to what people say, there's gold and magic that we can learn from everyone. And there was a message that constantly kept coming through from people that I was resonating with, the guests that I liked, the positive energy. And whenever I complain about being tired, not being able to catch my breath, not being able to run any faster, the message that kept coming through was stop drinking milk, stop eating cheese, you're having too much dairy. And I kept hearing the same message from people from every walk of life in different countries. So one day I just went, that's it. It's a sign. I can't keep ignoring this. And just went overnight. I stopped eating all dairy. And within 5 days, I was running faster. So I ran a certain distance and noticed that I was running faster over that same distance, day in, day out. I wasn't wheezing as much. People couldn't hear me breathing. Longer term, my skin cleared up. It was just incredible. Even my eyes went bluer. My father hadn't seen me for a while. He came over to Australia and he went, are you wearing contacts? Because toxins were being released in my body. It was just incredible, the difference. And that's what sort of sparked me to research, is it just me? Is this a crazy fad for my body, or is it real? And in Australia, where I was living, the National Asthmatic Association had a huge page, a massive spread saying there is no correlation with dairy and asthma. But they had a hidden page saying, guess what? We are sponsored by Dairy Farmers Australia. And I just went, hang on, there's something happening here. You've got to follow the money, haven't you? Yeah. And so I just started to really dig deeper. And when we look at it, the truth just speaks out. Dairy is terribly toxic for our body. It holds us back in performance. It holds, it's a terrible industry in itself for the inhumane treatment. Isn't it ironic we say humane and inhumane? Because animals, I'd much prefer to be treated like animals treat animals rather than how humans do. Yeah. But it was hugely inhumane. But and that's when I went, I can't keep trusting what I hear on the TV and what experts say, because they're being paid to tell me stuff.
No doubt. And you did this, took this transformation pretty quickly, because you noticed such magnificent upsides to your breathing and to your athletic performance. And did you feel like you needed to replace anything? A lot of people do. It's like, I have yogurt and cheese and ice cream, I don't know, and they want to replace everything, which sometimes I'm saying, do you need to replace it? There's other foods. It doesn't have to be, plant-based yogurt and then plant-based, did you feel the need to replace? If you did, what did you replace it with? Or did you just switch over to just other foods that gave you protein and calories?
Yeah, I didn't make any change. Like, I didn't go for the alternates, because one, they didn't exist. I lived in a village of 2,000 people. So I made do with difference. And I just learned to cook differently. I didn't have my meat and 2 veg with cheese sauce. I made something a bit more rustic, like a Buddha bowl or something. So I just completely threw out how I used to cook and went back to an empty bowl and reconstructed it. I did notice, however, the cravings I had was more emotionally linked, because food is such an emotional drink. We celebrate with bad foods or unhealthy foods, or meats and steaks, etc. So I had to start sort of dealing with my emotional side of life, and why I turn to certain foods when I'm feeling sad or miserable, or to celebrate. So that was a bigger step for me than actually just learning how to cook differently.
Mm-hmm. That's such an extraordinary point. It's so much so to stuff feelings, right? To replace pain. Did you turn to other plant-based foods to do that? Or did you make that recognition and say, hey, this isn't how I'm going to act out on my pain. I'm not going to act out on it through food. I'm going to, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, it takes time. I'm sure you guys know as well. Like, when we've gone through some type of trauma, it takes a long time to heal. And it's like an onion. When we peel something, we got it sorted. And then guess what? Someone else presses a button and we're back in the same spot. So I'm still constantly working, like, why does, when my mother say that, I want to eat ice cream? So it's a constant learning. But I think being plant-based, we do open our eyes up to a different world. And that means we have to step up and elevate ourselves emotionally as well, because we're not just doing it. It's not like we're selfish, but we're just thinking more of others. So we have to sort of be more responsible in our actions. And that does mean looking after our own baggage as well. So it's a constant learning for me. And I'm in a beautiful relationship at the moment, but that still comes with new ways of how to cook. And he's vegan as well, which is hugely helpful, but he does like his processed foods. So we're still working out, what does that mean, and why do I get triggered when I see the fake steak on a plate and all of this good stuff.
After you laced up your sneakers and made a huge change in your life for yourself and empowered yourself, you also made other changes in terms of your career and your whole outlook on who you could be. Can you talk to us a little bit about that new phase of life and how it's, led you to the Kate Strong today, who's breaking records and has her own business?
Yeah. I think I think school in particular sets us up to play a role and identify with a job title or a certain position, like I am a mother, I am a manager, I am a house owner, etc. And it boxes us in. And once I started doing triathlon and eventually sold my guest house business, which then gave me potentially the world to travel and do what I wanted, I needed to make sure that who I was is Kate Strong, because titles change. I was a world champion, but guess what? The next year I wasn't. I have world records, but somebody hopefully will break them one day, because we're always raising the bar. We can't keep holding the identities of these titles.
Right.
So the yo-yo of my life, because it's, again, I'm not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination, is to keep making sure that the identity of Kate Strong is attached to emotion, not those titles or the haves. Like I might have a nice house, but I'm not at that house. I am Kate, and wherever I live, be it a box or a mansion, I can still hold my head up high and be proud, be content, be joyous, whatever I want to be. Sounds a bit cliche, I do appreciate, but that's the sort of lesson I'm learning as I'm growing. And what you're saying about starting my business, I suppose I wanted to make sure that everything I did, I do with passion and I love every day. For me, success is being able to wake up when I want, not for an alarm clock, not because I should or have to, but because I want to. And so that's the sort of life I'm creating. And naturally, I'm loving answering the question how for other people and businesses, how they can be more sustainable, how they can be happier almost as well in their lives. So I'm very blessed that this is what I'm doing in my life at the moment.
Yeah. As Alexandra knows, I'm dying to go into that static bike world record or Guinness Book World Record. I want to be in there with you. I want to understand, first of all, as we traverse through it, when you decided to do it, what did you think it was going to mean to you?
So I originally wanted to do this in 2016, and I was looking for a new challenge. I didn't want to do sport that pitched me against other people. I think competition is very healthy, but my value or my identity shouldn't be because I'm better than someone else or they're better than me. So the challenge, the world record, gave me that opportunity to be competitive against myself and no one else. And I was looking for a challenge that no woman had done, actually, because I noticed there's quite a few world records in sport for men, yet when we look for the female equivalent, it's a little bit imbalanced. And so there was no world record for the furthest distance on 24 hours for a female. So I thought, there's one for men, why don't I just do the female one? And we can start evening the playing field. So that was my original motivation. And with total honesty, in 2016, I thought it was just turn up and cycle for 24 hours. So I did very little training. I did a lot of visualization, but it didn't get me the records because Guinness did set a minimum and I didn't meet it. So
a minimum of how many miles? Oh, because, right, you'd be the first woman. And they don't always take female world records, by the way, because my sister, this was in the 70s, wanted to break a world record. So she committed to crawling. And there was a crawling men's record, but not a women's record. And she was 15 at the time. And she crawled, I think, for 8 hours. And in the end, they didn't take her record because they said, we're not going to have a female world record. So I don't know if they've hopefully gotten more open-minded. But you had to hit a minimum time, or what was it? A percentage of the man's time or something?
From all I can guess, they just picked a number out of the air. So it was around 200 miles. No, it wasn't. It was around 300 miles in 24 hours on a static. I didn't get close. As I said, I had not trained at all, and I did it very publicly in a massive vegan festival, Veg Fest in London, and yeah, even though there was loads of people, I just sort of just spun my legs. Let's just leave it there. But yeah, but it was still with me. I wanted to do it again. I knew I had sort of unfinished business with this record.
Yeah, a world record should be very hard to break. And so you trained, obviously, because then you blew it out of the water.
Yeah.
So then what was the prep period then between when you didn't even get close to it, and then you set a date to do it again? What did that look like in preparation?
After not completing it the first time, I said, that's it, I'm not doing it again. Like, I'm sure you appreciate this. Sitting on a bike for 24 hours that doesn't move is mentally, physically abusing. So I was like, that job is done. It's not for me. But right. 3 years later, it was the start of 2020. I just went, I've got to give it another go. You know, it's not like me to not commit. I knew I didn't give it my 100%. So I started training in January 2020, which worked out well because albeit we had lockdown, it was a static bike challenge. I was trapped indoors anyway. So
I don't know why everyone didn't do it. Oh my gosh. All right. So
how do you train for that? I'm curious because I know for marathons, as someone who's done marathons, you build up and you end up maybe for a 26-mile race. Your long run might be 20 miles. You don't have to do the 26. What was the longest you were on the bike in training?
I built it up to 9 hours a day, but over 3 consecutive days. So wow. I did 9. So it was 27 hours over 3 days. Because, not to get too technical, but there are 5 pressure points on your body on a bike, your hands and your feet, and the other one was struggling with any more than 9 hours. So I didn't want to cause too much injury there for chafing reasons before actually attempting the record. And just to make it a bit more fun, I was like, well, if I'm going to do 24 hours, why don't I see if I can break the 1 hour world record in the first hour and then the 12-hour record in the first 12 hours? So if I go hard for the first hour, it's downhill all the way after that, isn't it, for 23 hours? So I did have the other 2 I had to do before attempting the 24-hour record as well.
Hey, y'all, we are going to put a pause on this conversation because we are really thrilled to announce a partnership with the fastest growing platform for plant-based and sustainable living that is changing lives all over the world. It's an app and it's called A Billion. They claim over there that they are a team of tech geeks and sustainability warriors, but we think we should add the word superheroes to the list. Here's why. A Billion is basically your go-to app for all things green, dairy-free, and vegan. The app helps you find vegan-friendly products, restaurants, groceries, and so much more, no matter where you are in the world. And you can leave a review to help other users as well. I say it's a little bit like a Yelp, a Happy Cow, and an Instagram in one. But here's where it gets really awesome. With every review, A Billion gives back. They support nonprofit organizations worldwide who are creating positive social change, like, you guessed it, Switch for Good. So all you have to do is download the A Billion app and write a review of a plant-based dish or a product. And every time you do that, every single time, you can donate $1 virtual to Switch for Good. Literally, all you do is review a food or product on the A Billion app. And when you are finished, it asks which nonprofit organization you want to donate to. And in the drop-down list, you can choose Switch for Good. We'd be so grateful if you did. To date, A Billion has already donated over $1.6 million to impactful causes around the world. So press pause on the show real quick, download the app, and start creating positive social change with just the click of a button. Okay, so those are the 3, but it was in that same 24 hours. I mean, Yeah,
okay. It was.
And how far can you tell us how far did you go that first hour, 12 hours, and then 24 hours?
1 hour was 24 miles an hour. So it's not very fast.
Yeah, that's pretty quick. On the static. That's impressive.
Yeah. But 12 hours was 232 miles. And then 24 hours was 433. So
wow, congratulations.
Yeah. So at the 12-hour mark, I mean, you had to have gotten some kind of boost that you're going to definitely blow that 300-mile range. When you knew that it was going to happen. How, where were the really nasty spots in this 24 hours? And what did you use, or how did you push yourself kind of just past them and to reach reach the end and break the record?
To tell you the truth, I don't think there wasn't a nasty spot. Everything was painful. I'd never gone further than 9 hours. So after that, it was complete, unknown. I also decided to ride it on a bamboo bicycle that was made by a charity in Ghana that only arrived 2 days before. So I hadn't even ridden my bike before the world record.
Oh my gosh.
So my body hadn't adjusted to the dimensions of the bike. So this, we never change kit. We never change bikes months before a proper A game.
It's like a big no-no. That was crazy, if I do say so.
But it was bamboo. It was really good. And, anyway, it looked good. And so, within 8 hours, my gut wasn't digesting the food. It was 100% plant-based, but it was raw dates, it was nuts, it was seeds. And because my body was working under such high pressure, I had a physio who was needing to massage my stomach because I could get off the bike. The time didn't stop, but I could have little micro breaks.
Right.
So she was helping my digestion because she had to physically start working my gut. So that was huge pain for me, physical. By 15 hours, I had 3 open wounds in one of my pressure areas that my physio again had to glue together. So I was cycling on open wounds basically, and that in itself was agony. And you just laugh because I had no thought process at all about a game plan, but I was cycling outside because it was a full moon. I thought it'd be really romantic, but it also meant full sunlight on my head since the morning, since sunrise. So my friends had to stand behind me with an umbrella.
Right.
So I was also struggling with sunstroke. I sound completely unprofessional, and I guess I am, but it was a great experience. But there was a lot of areas where I was just struggling with the heat, with with my stomach, with my body slowly breaking down as well. I also live streamed it. So I wanted to make sure people see the truth. A lot of people hear about these success stories, and I wanted to show the truth. Like, it's not pretty, it's gnarly, it's sweaty, it's bloody, there's tears. This is what success path looks like, not the finished product that everyone posts on your Instagram feeds. So there was also this sort of live stream, people dialing in, trying to sort of cheer me up as well. So they distracted me, which was amazing and helped me through it.
Wow.
But it also adds another element of accountability because I had like 3 million people viewing me throughout the 24-hour period.
Did you figure out, or did your physio nutritionist figure out that was probably way too much fiber in the dates and the nuts and the seeds, and move over to potatoes and bananas and stuff like that?
Yeah. We did it as a trial because, next year, as you know, I'm doing a 3,000 mile cycle, and we wanted to see how much my body could cope with. So we definitely overdosed me on the raw fiber. And then I did get out the lentils and the rice, partway through to give my gut that break. Okay. But we've never pushed my body that far before, so it was also a test for us to see how I could cope. But it was just a very uncomfortable test.
Ugh. That was an interesting time to choose the test. Go ahead.
Yeah, during a world record. You could have been during those 9 hours, but no, you picked it during the world record.
Oh, wow.
What did you learn about yourself from training and accomplishing this?
Yeah, because I learned, we don't realize how much we've got in ourselves. I know, like, at 12 hours, I had an inclination it was going to be my world record, but I still didn't know. And my body was screaming in pain. So every hour was an unknown whether I'd get through. I didn't realize how much potential I'm sitting on, and all of us are sitting on, that we just need that push, that little mountain, that public accountability, that little stretch that just gets us off the sofa and out of our comfort zones. And it's not comfortable, but we can push through it. We're huge, amazing human beings, and we can cope with a lot more pain and discomfort than we ever sort of seek out for. So the lesson I learned is stop being comfortable, just embrace the path less traveled, embrace the gravel, embrace the dark mornings, just stop sort of sitting on the sofa and using that as the excuse to not play big. Another thing I learned is we've all got this, lessons in our life as well. And we do need to use our voice to make changes. I'm hugely passionate about being plant-based. I'm hugely passionate about being sustainable, but I've never shared it publicly before because I didn't want people to think I was bigger than I was, or, other people are more experienced or more knowledgeable. But every voice matters, and every voice can have that impact. So I'm starting to be more vocal about what I've accomplished and why, and how I've done that as well, because it's my duty to, if you want to call it that. I need to step up and have my voice counted on the good side in the future. So there's been immense lessons. And, throughout the world records for 24 hours on a bike, I was crying a lot. I was letting go of the baggage. I couldn't carry my emotional pain. I couldn't carry my friends that, our friendship is over. I needed to let it go. So just like climbing a mountain, we can't take everything with us. We do need to let things go and mourn those moments of our life as well. So I use that 24-hour record as a sort of watershed moment to say, here's the line, the bar has been set, no more mediocrity for myself or my family or friends. Let's step up and let's keep the world growing the way I want to see it.
What does that mean to you, no more mediocrity? Because for everybody it's different, and it's even hard to find, because we, like you said, we get really comfortable in our routines, and then we think, this is us. This is my life. And I don't know, maybe, is that okay? Is that what you're striving against?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean everyone's got to grow to be the next million, billion person follower or whatever, or have that multinational company that takes on Amazon. It just means if we're using the words just, or if we know in our heart we're not doing something because we're afraid, we need to feed the right side. We need to feed our strength and belief in self, not the excuses. So for me, it's anytime I'm using excuses or reasons, I'm not being reasonable anymore in my life. I want to grow, I want to do something, and I'm going to find a way to do it because I trust in myself now. I know I'll find a way, however crazy or ridiculous the goal might be.
Yeah. It's making me think, we recently had this spiritual guru on the podcast named Kute Blackson, and he was saying to us, women are so much more powerful than any being, I think he was more, comparing to men. But so he said, women are the literal life force. And he goes into this thing, women are the ocean, and women are more powerful than they ever imagined. And they're able, and they're vibrant, and he gives all these adjectives. And he's like, and then men, we're really just kind of like this little tiny boat on the ocean, trying to sort of make it along. And we were talking about how so many women mute their power. And we know that, when little boys and little girls are raised up, very often parents treat their little girls differently than their little boys, and kind of cautioning the girls, be careful, avoid risk. And especially when it comes to things like sports and the outdoors and climbing mountains and doing big physical things. And I definitely see a lot of women muting their power and maybe even apologizing. Whereas I don't think I've ever heard of men apologize for his power. How do you see women holding themselves back? Because maybe it's inherent, or they were taught that it's not good. It's not good to be powerful. It's not good to own your power.
Oh my God. I mean, how long have we got? That could be a book. I'm sure it is. Simple things. I remember being, I'm from a very traditional family. I've got a younger brother. I was always told, look after your looks. Don't damage your face, because you'll need that in the future. And yes, it'd be great to have a degree, but it's more important the men you meet while you're doing your degree. And how I muted myself was not speaking up, letting men say derogatory, sexist, complimenting me on my looks, not what I'm saying. I mean, please do. I'm a beautiful woman, but I'm also highly intelligent. So, don't just see my cleavage, please. And not calling them out on that. Not supporting other women as well. We've been taught that women are competitive. We're only allowed one woman on the board. So if it's you, it can't be me. So I can't be friendly towards you. We need to team up and collaborate. You are right. We are so powerful. We are collaborative. We are connective. This is how the future needs to be built. This is the time of the divine feminine, if you want to call it that, for masculine to also embrace the connectivity, the emotions, and trust our guts. I see it everywhere, and it's such a shame. And in sport as well, we compare with numbers, like personal bests being about the fastest or the strongest, but not about us, the growth that created for us to get there. What about if we look at the personal best ratio? Because I started much lower than them. I might not reach the strength of the guy with wattage or speed, but I grew more. That deserves its merit too. So is there a way we could reframe what success and goals are? Because at the moment, it's heavily weighted in the masculine, because they are bigger and stronger. But we're more agile, we're more flexible, but we don't measure those things, do we? It's a massive rant. I could go on, but yeah, I hope you get the point.
Yeah, it's beautifully put.
Yeah, it's the person in power who chooses the measurements that count, and that's why strength and speed and who beat who in a war
and color
are the metrics that we've chosen to show who's successful and who's not. I am a long distance swimmer, and I'm not fast, but I can go a really, really long time. And I'm always so amazed that people always ask me, well, how fast did you go? And I don't really care. I care more about that I stayed in the water that long. That's amazing. Even though I'm beaten by so many who spent half the time in the water. Wow, I stayed in the water that long and got out with a smile on my face. There's success there, but it's not measured in our society.
Yeah, completely. And that's resilience, because how many people would have quit because they saw two people ahead of them? You didn't. You focused, you swam, and you swam your swim, which is so much more powerful. And that deserves the success and the celebration as much as the first person out of the water.
Right. It's so funny how we measure success. Tell us a little bit more about that, because I know you, with your clients in your business, you help empower people and bring them to their authentic selves. So what do you see people coming to you? What is the biggest obstacle they face? Are they defining success incorrectly for themselves, or do they, tell me what their obstacles are generally that you see. I think our audience can learn. We can see ourselves in your clients.
Yeah, I think typically the obstacle is always within ourselves. My job as a coach is to make sure that the answers are in you, not in me. And the best coaching sessions I have is when they say, I didn't actually need you. I'm like, brilliant, because you always knew you had the answers. Like, you know yourselves better than anyone else, so trust yourself. And typically, the impetus is they might have got a job raise or a pay raise or a promotion, or married the love of their life, and then they go, but is this it? Like, I love this person, or I got the dream job, but why do I still feel unsatisfied? And again, it's the society of setting us up for when you have the job, then you can be happy and successful. And when we get that, we realize, hang on, but I'm not. So typically it's unraveling what society has sort of built us in to expect that we need these items. And again, that identity thing I said, to feel successful and happy. So with clients, it's about unpicking what they deem as successful. And typically it comes down to self-worth. And a few clients, like one in particular, he struggled a lot with ego, that he felt that without that job title of director or business owner or a certain figure being brought in, he wouldn't be able to find his partner or live a happy life, or he'd be judged. And when he realized that no one was enjoying being with him because he was so miserable all the time, he quit his job and he's now actually a land farmer, and he's so much happier and has found a partner because they can see who he is. But it's about removing that ego of what we think we need for society to sort of pat you on the back. My mum's devastated. I've got a double master's in mechanical engineering. I used to work in aerospace. And my job after that was wearing a baseball cap in hospitality. She was devastated. And her first words were to me was, but what will I tell the neighbours? Can we stop living that life? Can we start living for ourselves? Like, your daughter's happy with the baseball cap on. Shouldn't that be what you celebrate? Not that your neighbours are going to judge you. But that's typically what we all sort of live on.
Yeah. As we've spoken about, you were in a dark place where you were not owning your truth and you were not letting your power shine. But that was you, and you were still you, but you got into that spiral. Where do you think we go wrong? Where do you think we start to make the missteps that so many of us live our whole lives unhappy and trapped? And thank God you didn't, right? You had some pivotal moments that you redirected, right? But where do you think so many get stuck that then it's their whole life is that?
I think it starts at school, because we're just taught not to connect to self. We're taught not to do what makes us happy. We're taught to follow a system, to wait, to work at certain times of the day and eat at certain times of the day and eat certain foods as well. But it's also about not accepting creativity or curiosity even in our lives. And we live for other people. I think it's the lack of sort of curiosity. We get resigned and complacent about the life we're living and the way we're living as well, with whom. We're not interested in what our partner says because we know what they're going to say anyway. It's predictable. We're not there hungry to find new pieces of gold that might be said. But it's also this sort of attachment to the dogma, sitting in the pattern of what would make other people happy. Like, how many, I'm sad to say this, but how many people have stayed in the relationship for the kids, or because they don't want a divorce, because it's wrong, they don't want their children to be brought up in a divorced relationship, but they don't mind it being completely loveless and toxic and passive aggressive, and that being shown as life and love. But but they feel guilty for not leaving because it's selfish. If we were all selfish, the world would be a better place. That's my thinking.
Yeah. You are changing, or I read that you want to change, and you probably are doing it. Since you want to do it, you're probably already doing it. Some of the educational curriculum at Wales, and that speaks directly to, okay, this starts at school. So what does a new curriculum look like? How can it change so that it is the opposite of what we are used to, that puts us all in boxes, basically?
God, I mean, it'll take generations, that's for sure, because the teachers need to upgrade as much as the pupils. It's about teaching the soft skills. Again, what we're talking about, success and measurements. How can we measure collaboration? So instead of staying there marking quietly, notice a child who's helping their neighbours and give them the A star, because isn't that what life's about? It's about making sure that we all work together. I have never, except in school and university, ever had a test where I can't ask someone else. It's ridiculous. So can we start celebrating and rewarding creativity, connection, getting connected to nature? It's happening already in certain schools where they're holding classes we're in a forest, teaching children where an apple comes from or what a tomato looks like, making sure that we learn skills we can nourish ourselves moving forward. Communication as well is a big key for me as well. That I'm actually doing a tour next year, as you know, on my bike for 3,000 miles. And the plan is to visit 30 schools as well as organizations and set them little micro challenges. Like, how can you all work together to solve, this bit of landfill issue or climate change or social issue that they might be struggling with, so they can work and reward success, that it's not a grade, it's actually a project that continues throughout their life as well. So, I mean, it sounds a bit wishy-washy maybe, but I think those soft skills are things that go on forever. It's not about the A+ on your math paper. It's about creating community that supports people throughout.
Yeah.
I
love that
soft
point.
skills. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that point that you made. I love that point that you made, that in school we're supposed to do the tests all by ourselves, but in real life, as we get older, we always have somebody we can go to help us. We don't have a test that we are supposed to take at work. That's just crazy. So collaboration is more of an indication of success. So you touched on environmental aspects, and just now and earlier in our talk with you. Tell us, you have on your website something that you said that climate change means that business as usual and life as usual cannot go on. How do you feel? How have you changed? And how do you feel we need to change if the human species is going to survive?
God, it's such a deep question. I mean, for me, climate change is now becoming, or being climate conscious, is that now in my DNA. Everything I do is about making sure that I'm considerate of not just me, but the community I live in, the nature I live around, and all the beautiful bird species that coexist with me as well in that space. So, for example, I've got a job in Italy, which would require me to fly, but I've decided to train for 24 hours down there, make it a bit of a road trip, save 150 tons of carbon, and fly back. So it's about just being a bit more conscious and building in slow travel and a bit more experiential as well for me. And my limitless challenge that you talked on earlier, originally I was going to come to the States, I was going to cycle and race across America, have a team of 10 to support me, and then fly back to the UK and swim the Channel. And thinking about it, your country is absolutely gorgeous. I'm sure I'll visit you imminently, but couldn't I explore Britain and save those 10 flights? Couldn't I see what adventures I can have in my own back garden? So now I'm cycling the 3,000 miles around Britain instead. I mean, it's not America, but it's the UK. So again, I'm getting innovative and making sure that my adventures happen a little closer to home. And just, again, thinking about how else I can do things. Like, as I said, that bamboo bicycle, I've actually made a new one that fits me better. So again, it's how else can we do things, how we can sort of be innovative as well. And plant-based naturally fits into that for nutrition, because that's the best thing we could actually do to save the planet. It heavily reduces our carbon, our water demands, and also all those amazing, beautiful, sentient lives that would otherwise be on our plates, which is quite sad when I think about it.
Mm-hmm. By the way, only about 18% of participants in Race Across America are female. So after you do Britain, I say you row to the US and then do Race Across America, because we need more wildly incredible, amazing females to, although the record across was broken by a female, like the male and female record, Leah Goldstein, which you probably know. So only 18%, but the record holder's a female of all time. Yeah.
And 18% of Everest submitters as well are female, just to
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you training to climb Everest if you live in the UK?
Yeah, I've pressed pause on Everest for the same reason of sustainability, because I'd love to slow travel down to it. So I think in a few years' time I'll get down to there. But actually, cold water swimming is the best form of training you can do. So it really helps. The thing that hinders the most people is actually the altitude, and cold water swimming is great for your lung training. So if you can't get in the mountains, get in the water. When I do it, I'll plan to spend about 3 to 6 months in Nepal beforehand. I'd love to do charity work in the area as well and connect to the culture of the mountain, not just sort of fly to the top and fly away and tick it off the bucket list. So yeah, that culture, the immersion will definitely help with the altitude training as well.
Right.
You don't have children and you were born, all three of us, basically sort of middle class and things. So it's easier for us to follow our dreams.
Yeah.
What do you say to people who might have already decided or want to have several children and started without any support from parents and things? So no safety net or anything, but yet they're not happy in their jobs, or they feel like they're not being their authentic self because they can't be, because they have to go to work and take care of their families. How do you help those kind of people have fulfilling, happy lives?
Yeah, it's a really important point, and I'm really glad you brought it up, because we are all white privileged. We might be women, we might have sort of some type of bias against us there, but you are right. I have a certain quality of life that many people don't have access to, and I don't take it for granted. I do know, thanks to my upbringing, I know I can be a little bolder, because at worst I can always move in with my parents, for example. Not the ideal, but it's still that safety net you talked about. I think there's always a way, and again, I don't want to come across as preachy, because it's not up to me to come and save people. No one needs saving. The power is within the person, but it's about making sure that we are as authentic as we can be in whatever situation we have. I felt very guilty for that world, the World Championships, for my background, for my parents, money as well. So I quite literally threw away my resume, walked into a cafe and started on 0-hour contract, minimum wage, cleaning toilets, because I wanted to make sure that it was who I was, not what I had, that drove me. And the thing I discovered in that is focusing on what we can do with the situation is sometimes the most we can achieve. And if people are struggling, and again, I'd love for your listeners to actually get involved and share their own thoughts as well, because I'll always have my parents in the background. So where I'm coming from knows I'd have that safety net as well. But it's finding out how we can be our best self in that moment and be the best mother, be the best partner, be the best admin or manager, knowing our boss as being an idiot as well, and making sure we don't react to situations, that we're learning those skills and doing our best to turn around it. Even if we have, and I've had this sexist bosses in the past, which have capped it purely, preventing me from growing. But they're great lessons for us to be able to learn how to manage our anger, if only that. So I've learned how not to react and say something in the heat of the moment. So there's always lessons in everything, and we can find outlets, albeit it may not be quit our job and freestyle for 6 months. So find a way to find yourself in your free time, or if only in those moments where you can't actually leave them.
And there are I appreciate your acknowledgement of our privilege, because that's really the first step, right? For us to have empathy for others. But we might not be able to, but just like you scaled back because of your value system, your dreams, that doesn't mean they're any worse just because you're not going as far to accomplish them. And so I guess the person who might not be able to take off months to train for something can still run a mile or walk a mile in the mornings, or choose a vegan diet, or choose to be kind. So we can scale our dreams so that we can still be the person we are at scale. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, a circle is a perfect circle if it's this size or this size. So as long as we're playing our 100% game, it doesn't matter the size of our circle, because we're being true in all aspects of this. So some days my circle is minute. If I get out of bed, I'm proud. Other days it's like, wow, Everest in the world, you better watch out. So it really depends.
You have shared so many nuggets of wisdom, and it's made me curious right now in your life. What are you working on? Like, what are you learning about yourself right now that is making you want to, dive in deeper and stretch the limits of you?
I'm writing a book, so I'm learning how to share what I've learned in an authentic way for others to read. It's plant-based female athletes, so I'd love your feedback as well on that, because it's very much relevant to what you guys do. And that's stretching me a lot. It's very much outside my comfort zone. I've been doing quite a lot of volunteer work and lessons around anti-racism and how I can be a better ally to my, I don't know how you say it, but BAME sisters and brothers. And again, acknowledge my privilege, but make sure that I ally with them rather than do the white saviorship and think that I know all the answers. So I've read Me and White Supremacy and do some, as I said, volunteer work with local charities near me. So that's really helping me expand and understand what it means to be human. We need to team up and stop looking at our differences and start working together as a unit, because if my country's on fire, guess what? Your country will be burning too as well. So can we stop judging and start working together? I'm also, as you know, got the 3,000-mile cycle next year. So that'll take me 3 months. And I built my own bike out of 6 bamboo pieces. And the goal with the challenge isn't about Kate anymore. It's about connection and community. So we've evolved from competition with others, competition with self, and now we're into the collaboration zone. So this challenge is all about how we can bring communities together and learn. So wherever you are on the sustainability journey or the climate crisis journey, we can start opening the conversation up and also learn from people who've been doing the right work for 10, 20 years. And it's just amazing. It's opening up a lot of lessons around the importance of insects and bugs and bees and not mowing our lawn and simple things that we can do to make sure that our insects are protected as much as our animals. So I've got a lot on, as you can hear, but I just love it. I just love all these plates spinning. It just keeps me alive and it keeps me moving forward.
Yeah. Would you mind if I go to the second thing that you mentioned? Because I would love some, literal practical aspects of what you're learning about lifting up versus saviorship. This is definitely hopefully a constant conversation in light of the last couple of years and the last 400 years. But what you're in the community, right? You're literally doing the volunteer work versus reading a book, which you've read a book, and Alexandra and I did a book club with that book as well. But you're in it, in the community. What are you learning, or what are the 1, 2, 3 kind of bits of or steps that you go, yes, this is really lifting up versus saviorship in action, right? Like literally.
Well, a simple thing, because we 3 have a podcast. So we all, not the same one, we've got 2, but, am I doing my best to step outside of the white circle for my guests? Because as we said, let's use Everest as an example. 18% of them are females, about 4% are non-white, which means 80% of them are white men. Am I only reaching out to those white men? Yes, of course, they've climbed Everest and their story and their journey is valid. But how else can I make a little bit of an effort to make sure that I'm reaching the South Africans, the Native Americans, the Chinese, the Nepalese? I don't just go for the easy Google search. I just make sure that I go an extra step further. And so that's a simple step that I'm doing with the tool that I have, to make sure I give an equal platform to people who are just as valid and have done an amazing race, but they just don't have that website, or they haven't been as proactive on their social. So that's a simple step. Another thing more tangibly in communities is I don't ask them what they want from me, because again, that's putting my baggage on them and me saying to my friends, you tell me how I can help you. As my race created the problem, now you have to tell me how to fix it. That doesn't work either. So I'm doing my best, and again, I'm learning, because I'm a natural rescuer, to go into these communities open and just just helping them the way they want to be helped without needing to sort of put the baggage on them. And charity work is the easiest way. I'm sure in your area there'll be local refugee, minority group, well, actually the majority. Again, it's the white word, isn't it? If you look at the global numbers, they are the majority.
I even hate the term ethnic food, because I think, well, wait, what does that mean? That means everything but white or American, right?
Yeah.
Except for most time you're talking about, I want ethnic food because it's so much better and so much more delicious and so much better for us and so much more variety and so much
white food is pale and stale, like, hello, that's the same as what we stand for, we just need to shake it. It's just amazing. There's another book that I really recommend. It's Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race, because again, it gives us a little bit of stats, and they're just shocking. That we're not talking about generations, we're talking about a few years ago. And it's just humility. It adds a lot of humility into me to realize that it's happening now. And Britain's very different landscape to America, but it's happening everywhere. And we do need to do our best to call it out, similar to what we were saying about women being suppressed. When we hear those little snide, I didn't mean it comments. No, you did. And don't do that again, please. That is rude. How we can stand up to those people, the racists, even our parents, if they are the ones as well, and just say, stop it, not on my watch. This has to stop now.
Yeah, great. How can people find you, Kate, and be inspired by all the things you've done and are going to be doing?
And follow you on the Limitless Challenge.
Yes, please do. My website's the best place, katestrong.global. I'm getting better on Instagram as well, so my handle's katestrong01. And just connect with me. I love hearing other people's stories as well and getting inspired by them. So I'd love to hear about what your friends and colleagues and listeners are doing as well.
Oh. Thank you so much for being on our podcast, Kate. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you.
I really appreciate it. It's amazing speaking with you guys. And thank you for your work as well. You are inspiring.
Hey y'all, Dotsy here. Spoiler alert, free stuff at the end of this, so don't press fast forward. All right, whether you are a first-time listener or maybe you've been with us since day one, I just wanted to really thank you for choosing the Switch for Good podcast. We know there are literally thousands of podcasts out there, and we're honored that you chose ours today and left the comedy show or murder mystery series for another day. Speaking of, Alexandra and I are always dying to know what brings you into the Switch for Good podcast. Why do you love it? Or what do you want us to do better? We want you to be honest and let us know with a review on your favorite podcatcher. It really helps us to improve the show, which means more enticing entertainment for your earbuds, and it helps the Switch for Good podcast move up in the ranking so more people can tune in and learn, which we hope transfers to more lives saved, right? All right, here's the free stuff. As a thank you for your review, we're going to send you our 50 Ways to Leave the Udder ebook by Paul Simon, which you only got that joke if you're over 40. All right, 50 Ways to Leave the Udder ebook is a quirky yet really effective resource for anyone looking to go dairy-free. If you're already plant-based or dairy-free, give it to a friend. It's full of helpful tips like how to use plant milk in cooking and baking, immunity-boosting foods, and a go-to guide for products dairy-free. Because trust us, we know the best cheeses and ice creams out there. Oh yeah, and there's also lots of pictures of cute cows because we couldn't resist. So leave us a review on the podcatcher you are listening to us right now on. Then take a screenshot of it and send it to info@switchforgood.org. And zoom, we'll send you your 50 Ways to Leave the Udder free ebook.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. If we helped you in any way, then click the subscribe button and let's keep hanging out together. We have so much more to share with you.
And if you need more information on actually making the switch for good, please visit us at switchforgood.org. for loads of info, and you can subscribe to our mailing list where you will receive all sorts of super cool gifts, discount codes to our very fave dairy-free products, and a lifetime of powerful health tips.
So join us on the journey to switch for good. This is the future.